If Padmé Survived, Part 2. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second installment of the Bantha Stew Sequel Week Spectacular. Today we'll be diving into the story surrounding Padmé's survival in the prequel trilogy. So grab a glass of warm bantha milk, snuggle up beside your pet Lothcat, and let's dive right in to the second part of this What If video. Buckle in everyone, because this one's gonna be a doozy. Where we left off, the galaxy was in a state of peace. Palpatine had gone into hiding after a successful Republic operation on Coruscant. The Empire had died, and the Jedi Order was rebuilding. Padme had built a life for herself as a successful senator in the New Republic, and she's favored to be the successor to Mon Mothma as Chancellor. Anakin, in his new white armor, warns his pupils about the dangers of falling to the dark side, and upon Yoda's eventual death, he begins to lead the New Order alongside Obi-Wan. Luke and Leia are effective teachers, and both of them are adored by the students. Leia also makes a name for herself in galactic politics, as it is clear that she shares the charm and charisma of her mother. The galaxy is in a state of peace, and things look stable. However, despite searches across the galaxy, along with countless Imperial remnant warlords being discovered, raided, and defeated, the former Emperor is still at large. So, how do these events impact the rest of our story? Let's keep going to find out. One day, during a special meeting of the New Republic Defense Committee, over which Admiral Ackbar sits as the Chief of Defense Staff and retains his position in the military as a Fleet Admiral, he details to the New Republic that it is possible that an Imperial remnant activity may have been detected in the Outer Rim, but that he couldn't be sure. In addition, Ackbar tells other members of the committee that if this was the Imperials, this had been the greatest buildup that he'd seen so far among a remnant group. Ackbar says that it's possible multiple warlords were convening and that they were going to unify under new leadership to take on the New Republic government. Mon Mothma asks who, and Ackbar shrugs his shoulders. However, Hera, who also sits on this council, remarks that for years she had been hearing rumors of Thrawn's return to the galaxy. She also tells the council that this would be the perfect opportunity for Thrawn to strike, while the New Republic was in a state of complacency. Leia, who not only was a Jedi Knight, but had been elected as a senator, like her mother, says that Obi-Wan and Anakin have been seeing dark visions recently about an evil force building in the Outer Rim, perhaps the same one that they had been speaking of. Obi-Wan, though, is growing very, very old, and many of the Jedi had been starting to question if he was merely delirious, and if his delusions were rubbing off on others. Senator Xiono scoffs at this, saying that all of this was nothing but speculation and rumors, and he also says that the buildup in the Outer Rim is probably just a gang of pirates or traitors meeting for their own reasons. Mon Mothma asks Ackbar by which planet the buildup was observed to be taking place. He responds with Dathomir, the world which we see Thrawn return to at the end of Ahsoka Season 1. Mon doesn't want to strike immediately. As a pacifist, she's committed to the demilitarization of the New Republic. However, she listens to her advisors, and she allows Hera to take a small observation force to Dathomir to see what's really going on. Within this task force, Hera elects to take Luke as a Jedi observer due to the fact that Leia had an important position as a senator in the galaxy. She also takes along the newly returned Ezra, who she knows can help both of them. People such as Xiono, though, don't believe the stories of Ezra, thinking that he's just as deranged as Hera for believing that Thrawn had returned. This task force, led by Carson Teva and Hera, jumps into hyperspace and makes the trip to Dathomir. Immediately, Luke can feel a sense of impending doom from within his core. As he meditates, not only does he see the infamous blue face of Thrawn, but he also hears the maniacal cackling of the Emperor, which he had heard when he escaped from the Jedi's clutches all those years ago. Luke is snapped out of his meditation by Ezra, who informs his fellow Jedi that they would soon be arriving at Dathomir. Luke asks Ezra if he felt this darkness too, and Ezra says that he does. Luke says that he worries about his aging mother, who still represents Naboo in the Senate, and that he also hopes that Anakin would be able to hold the Jedi Order together if Palpatine did indeed return. Ezra nods, saying that Ahsoka had told him many great things about Skywalker, and that he knew the Jedi would be able to lead the Order, even during times of strife. Luke is reassured by Ezra, and he goes by the bridge to meet with Hera. As soon as the group comes out of hyperspace, they're greeted by the bleak world of Dathomir staring them in the face. In addition, an entire fleet of Star Destroyers is present, along with the massive Eye of Sion device that Thrawn used to return to the main Star Wars galaxy. Hera's mouth drops to the floor, as now she could see clearly that the Empire had indeed returned. She mumbles under her breath that she hoped this was proof enough for the Defense Council, and she begins to pull away. However, just as she does, her ship is caught in the tractor beam of the Chimera. Hera tries to pull the ghost free, but she's stuck. A hail from Thrawn himself comes through, who's looking more plump than he had the last time she had seen him, and Thrawn tells her that attempting to escape would be futile. He also says that his master would be eager to see the young Jedi that she had brought with him. Carson, in his small X-Wing, manages to escape with his fighter squadron unfazed. Naturally, this was all by Thrawn's design, as he wanted them to inform the New Republic of his presence. Hera and the two Jedi are captured by Thrawn. The mysterious crates that he had brought back from Peridia can be seen lining the hallways of the Chimera, and Thrawn comes to personally meet the group. Luke remains calm, saying that his father would have something to say about this. Thrawn smiles slightly, admitting that Jedi were one of the few variables he could never predict. However, their unpredictability always factored into his plans. He takes Hera and the Jedi to the main conference room of the Chimera, where all of the members of the Shadow Council sit. Captain Pellaeon is waiting for Thrawn, and the chair at the head of the table sits the ancient Emperor Palpatine, who smiles. It seems that he had gotten the last word in, hadn't he? Thrawn says that they are now fully ready to move forward with the plan. Palpatine cackles, telling Thrawn that he looked forward to their grand return to the galaxy. As it turned out, this plan had been organized as a contingency many years ago between Thrawn and Palpatine. If the Emperor were ever to survive, but lose to the New Republic, Thrawn was to go to the ancient Sith world of Korriban to meet Palpatine and reintegrate him into the Empire. While this hadn't exactly gone according to plan, as Thrawn had been stuck in another galaxy, Pellaeon still managed to continue the plan, and he found the Emperor on Korriban. He then informed Palpatine that Thrawn was planning a return to the galaxy in a grand fashion, and that they would meet him on Dathomir. While the Night Sisters had been wary about working with the man who had ordered the genocide of their people, Thrawn convinced them that Palpatine would help their cause, and that they could continue to work together to learn more secrets of the Force. Now, it seemed like the preparations had been made for the greatest return of the Empire to the galaxy in history. Was the New Republic ready to counter their rise? Let's keep going and find out. When the Imperials emerge from hyperspace, they're situated above the peaceful world of Naboo. It's defenseless for the most part, and Palpatine knows this. After all, Naboo had been his home for many years. He cackles, and he makes an announcement to all the people on the planet's surface that he had come back, and that now he felt more vengeful than ever. He specifically decries the traitorous Padmé Amidala, who now sat as the representative for Naboo in the Senate, along with her husband, Anakin Skywalker, who had personally betrayed him all those years ago. Thrawn extends a polite offer to the people of the New Republic. They could exchange the 3 prisoners that they had for all of the old Imperial warlords that were now locked up in Republic prison. Even though Naboo didn't have a strong standing defense force, because of Anakin's attachment to the world, many of the Jedi would often go there to study and train. So, even though the New Republic military wasn't ready yet, Anakin is. He leaps into his starfighter and beckons the other Jedi to do the same, and he tells Padme that he's going to defend their home. Padme kisses him on the suit, and she wishes the best of luck to him from Theed. The Jedi race into the sky, and they tangle with TIE fighters for aerial supremacy. Thrawn watches the Jedi, studying their movements, learning how to best counter them. Palpatine cackles as he watches from the bridge, seeing many of Anakin and Obi-Wan's new order go up in flames. Anakin, however, still remains one of the best fighter pilots in the galaxy. He weaves in and out of the attacks, destroying whoever dared to challenge him. Luke cheers whenever he sees his father destroy a new ship, remarking about an inside joke that he had with Anakin surrounding the world of pod racing. Eventually, Anakin and a few other Jedi manage to happily land in the hangar bay of the Chimera, where they cut through stormtroopers like butter. Among this group, shockingly, is the elderly Obi-Wan. Even though he's now incredibly old, he is still adept in the Force, and even if he hated flying, he was still willing to do it if it meant protecting innocent lives from Palpatine's tyranny. It was a minor mirror of the scene in Revenge of the Sith when the pair crashed into the invisible hand, and, just like poetry, it rhymed. Palpatine waits for them on the bridge, smiling. He commands Thrawn not to impede their ascent any more than necessary, which the Chiss expresses disagreement with, but ultimately defers his authority to the will of the Emperor. In addition, Thrawn oversees a relatively easy ground assault. The Gungans and the Naboo security forces work together to counter the landing ships, along with the remaining Jedi on the surface. However, they have a difficult time countering the attacks of the Night Sisters, the Stormtroopers, and some of the Night Sisters' zombie abominations. Padme's heart races as they reach the Theed Palace, as she's prepared to defend herself, just as she had in the past. They do end up making it to her palace, and she fires back at many of the attacking Imperials. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and some of their pupils enter the bridge, where they see the Emperor standing, waiting for them. Anakin tells Palpatine that this time, they would be sure to finish the job. He reaches out with the Force and throws Palpatine backwards, who is still cackling with joy. The bridge officers look nervous, and they draw their weapons. Thrawn, however, tells them not to. He would watch these Jedi and learn, especially Anakin. They had met many years ago, and Thrawn still couldn't figure out the rationale behind Anakin's erratic nature. Obi-Wan moves slowly, but he comes to the side of Anakin. Palpatine refuses to ignite his lightsaber, instead throwing a barrage of Force lightning at the pair. Anakin and Obi-Wan manage to create a bubble strong enough to absorb the lightning, and they fire it back at Sidious, who twirls to the side in order to avoid it. He remarks that Anakin never should have left his side, but Anakin doesn't care. In fact, to Palpatine's surprise, Anakin musters up the strength to hurl a blast of Force judgment at Sidious, who doesn't expect this move. Anakin had learned to create a bubble in the Force to protect his circuitry over the years while he trained with this ability, and now he masters it. Palpatine is shocked. Get it? Because it's Force judgment, it's lightning. No? Not funny? Okay, I'll keep going. I thought that was kind of funny. By the strength of his former apprentice, and he falls backwards, stunned. It's in this moment that Anakin pulls out his lightsaber, knowing that this time he had to finish the job, and he slays the Emperor with the legendary Skywalker blade. Then he goes and frees the other Jedi, and he tells Thrawn to call off his attack. Thrawn, who is steps ahead of the Jedi Knight, says that if the Jedi do not let him go, he will orbitally bombard the Naboo below him. He says that he's an honorable man, but that he was not above such acts to protect what he perceived to be for the greater good. For a moment, Anakin doesn't know what to do. He has his blade to the throat of Thrawn, who looks him dead in the eyes with his own. However, to Anakin's surprise, it's Luke that comes in clutch this time. Obi-Wan had freed Ezra and Luke of their bindings, and Luke reaches out to choke the Imperial warlord with the Force. Luke tells Thrawn to let them go, or else he would die, here and now. Luke's irrational behavior is another variable that Thrawn hadn't considered in his ultimatum. Finally, Thrawn realizes that he's been bested, and he sees that the Jedi could never truly be predicted. The Chimera is commandeered by the Jedi Order as Thrawn surrenders, and the ground assault is called off. But many other ships in the Imperial fleet manage to escape before the Republic arrives at Naboo, including the one that Captain Pellaeon is in charge of. Thrawn and the crew of his ship are taken prisoner by the Jedi, who now have the fear of the Imperials aboard the Chimera. With the death and capture of Thrawn, the New Republic negotiates with the Shadow Council and the Imperial Remnant. Thrawn is released as a prisoner, and they are given a small chunk of the Outer Rim to govern, so long as they do not exceed a certain military capacity and threaten the New Republic ever again. Thrawn, due to his legendary status in the Remnant, is named the new Emperor, and the Council of Moffs begin reforming the Empire into a more egalitarian system, as per the demands of the New Republic. Pellaeon is elected to be the people's Prime Minister, and he and Thrawn rule side by side, maintaining peace within their borders. Many ex-Imperial sympathizers immigrate from the Republic to the Remnant, and it becomes a more self-sustaining state under the new leadership. Thrawn had also kept many of the Night Sister crates from his planned assault on the galaxy, and he continues to have them studied by Imperial scientists. Anakin, Luke, Obi-Wan, Ezra, and Hera are revered as heroes of the New Republic for their bravery, and they're given medals for their heroism on Naboo. Padme and Leia both shower accolades upon them, and they're very proud of their family members. Mon Mothma, due to her lack of effective response and the warning from Carson Teva and Hera, is chastised by many members of the government, but she weathers the storm and manages to remain in power, especially due to how she manages the aftermath. How do these events impact the end of our story? Let's find out. Obi-Wan, shortly after the battle on Naboo, becomes one with the Force, leaving Anakin as the Grand Master to the new Jedi Order. Luke becomes incredibly powerful, but he remains subordinate to his father, ready to take the mantle of Grand Master when Anakin retired. Leia remains popular in the Senate, and she often works with her mother on special committees. When Mon Mothma retires, Padme is voted to be her successor in the Senate, and she is also adored by the people. Her connection to Anakin is something that is revered by the New Republic population, as it symbolized the marriage between Jedi and the Republic in terms of protecting the galaxy from harm. Padme maintains a standing army, just in case the Remnant were ever to act up again, but she continues Mon Mothma's policy of downsizing. Thrawn and Pellaeon govern the Remnant well, and their people are quite satisfied with the mix of democracy and the old Imperial ways that had been struck. Thrawn keeps good relations with the Chiss ascendancy as his ruler, and he relies on their help many times due to his lack of ability to maintain a strong military with regards to his agreement with the New Republic. Once again, peace had come to the galaxy. It seemed that Anakin had been the chosen one after all. Once again, all was well within the Galactic Republic. Hi there folks, I hope that you enjoyed this sequel video. If you did, I'd recommend checking out the first part if you haven't already. What if Padmé survived? If you have any thoughts about our follow-up story, please share them in the comments. Would you like to see this story continued even further? If so, how do you believe that the tale would proceed? Have a bantha-tacular rest of your day, my friends, and as always, I hope that you've had your daily, delicious dose of nutritious bantha stew.